Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. Welcome to this week's episode of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm so pleased to have with us this week Desrine McFarlane, who is the owner of Legacy HRM Consultancy. She's a motivational speaker. She's a presenter, a leadership coach, and coming to us from Jamaica, which listeners, I am Jamaican, so I'm excited. I've been on Desrine's podcast or YouTube show, and had just a pleasure and said, you know what, I've got to get her over to the podcast. And, I want to hear her career. I want to sit in the driver's seat and hear her story this time and get curious about her journey. I'm sure you'll be excited to learn a lot of career wisdom from Desrine. Desrine, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Simone. I am delighted to be here. This is fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we met when you were at 3M. Was it 3M?
That is correct. That is correct.
And
yes.
So would you say you were in the driver's seat in your career at 3M? You were in control of things?
I was sort of in the driver's seat, but right now I am driving.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us what you mean by sort of in the driver's seat.
Well, at 3M, we were responsible for our own career development. Our development was our responsibility. So if I wanted to grow in the organization, it was up to me. And I grew. I started in 2009 locally, and then I went regionally. I also went internationally, and I've been part of groups that have gone as far as the Asia to work. So it was up to me how I develop my own career and how I express interest in the things that I wanted to do. And the opportunities were always there. It was just for me to tap into. So in a big way, I was in the driver's seat when I was there.
Okay, awesome. So now you're saying that you're driving now. So tell us about the difference today.
Okay, so now with my own business, my consultancy business, I am definitely not just in the driver's seat, but I'm driving. I am responsible for my own brand. So when I say Legacy HRM, it's me. And when someone say Desrine, as long as they're talking about the services that I offer, it's really that I'm connected right now to my brand. So I have to be more forceful in terms of how I come across. I have to market my competencies in a different way. When I was in the organization, I had a boss who was, telling me what to do, and we were planning together. Now, I have to get up every day and plan to grow Legacy and also to ensure that we are visible in the marketplace. And I say we, Legacy HRM and Desrine, that's the we.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Get up every day intentional to be in the driver's seat. I really love that message. So what would you say? I'm going to jump right to the secret sauce or the formula for owning your career, because you said some key things. I heard international and just, nurturing a relationship with your manager to get these results and these experiences where you can really try different opportunities inside your organization. So keeping that in mind, that lens, as well as your external lens now, running your own company, what would you say are the key ingredients for successfully owning your career?
Okay, so first you have to know what you're passionate about. It's absolutely important to know what you're passionate about. I am passionate about people. I knew that I wanted to serve people. I also knew that I didn't want to serve just locally. I wanted to impact the world. And also I was curious. I was curious to learn what HR was like in other countries, how different it was, What could I learn from other countries and bring it locally to bring the standard up? And so, what has driven my career is that curiosity and that passion for what I do. I really love serving people. I like to see people grow and develop. And so, my focus has always been if I take care of my people, they will take care of the things that are important to me. And that has been my motto. Love people, do the best you can for them, and also empower them. Just like I say, my development is my responsibility. I don't spoon feed, right? I teach them to fish instead of giving them the fish.
All right, Desrine, bring it. Okay, I feel like I need to cue in some nice music when those key gems are dropped. I love it. I love it. So thank you for sharing that. So as we talk about being curious, how do you build that curiosity muscle? Because some people are just not curious. They it's either black or white. And how do you build that muscle to stay curious on this journey?
Okay, so my motto is if better is possible, good is not enough. So I have found the secondary research very, very helpful. If I want to do something, I want to research who is doing that thing. Where is the opportunity for me to do it? And that is why I opted to work for an international organization. I opted to study for an international master's degree because my research showed me that in order to have an entry into those organizations, I need some kind of alignment. And that alignment comes in not just in your experience, but in your education. Who are you interacting with? I also believe in networking and collaboration and all of those things. And I have been brave enough to reach out to people that I see online. I love to read the Gallup surveys and see what is going on in HRM, what are the new things, and introduce them even to my leaders. So that's what has been driving I would say, my career, that need to be better, not just good, but better.
I love that. So where does that come from, Desrine? Where does that come from, Desrine?
It came from a little girl growing up in a large family and had to find her place, to find her voice, to find her relevance. I call myself the middle child because I'm the sixth of 10. So I'm somewhere there in the middle and you can get lost. So what I thought that I needed to do even as a child was to carve out my own space, even in my home. The neatest corner was mine. So my presence, I like to be seen, I like to be heard, I like to be felt. And I think I take some of that to people as well, to my people leadership as well. I like when people feel that they're heard and they're seen and they are felt. So that's my answer to that question. I just wanted to be somebody of value to the world.
I love, I know I keep saying I love that, but believe me, I genuinely mean it, that I'm loving this conversation. And, it must be difficult to be in the middle and just finding your way. When did you finally find your way? Because you said 1 of 10, you're 6 of 10. So that, how did you become that standout, find your relevance?
So I loved reading. I developed an affinity for reading as a child. And so through books, I realized that there was a bigger world out there than my small community, Kitson Town, from which I am from. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born. But and then when you're poor, you don't really go anywhere. So books brought me to North America, to Scotland, to different countries, and I was there. I could see, as I read, I could see that there's a big world out there, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so I read and read and read, and I wasn't interested in the romance novels. I wanted to read about places and travels, people who have traveled to different places, and I also like biographies, people who have impacted the world, because that's what I wanted to do. So reading was the way I made a difference. And my family accommodated me because I was quiet. I wasn't given any trouble. I was just into my books. I wasn't getting scars and stuff like my siblings because I was so dedicated to learning.
Wonderful. Did you ever think of becoming a teacher?
Oh, every child. I loved my teacher, so I thought that's what I wanted to become. And in many ways, I am a teacher. As I coach people these days, I realize, my goodness, I am a teacher. In human resource, we did training, right? We did training. We had to roll out training programs. You first had to get the message before you give the message. So in a lot of ways, I did become a teacher, just in a different way.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm just thinking about my upbringing. I wanted to be a teacher when I was
Yes.
growing up, and that was poo-pooed, and so I didn't go down that route. But I ended up still in the work that I do as a facilitator, as a speaker, as a coach, like you said. There is still teaching because there's a passion for teaching. And I know you said not the romance novels, but the romance novels back in the day were my escape. So I will confess that to you listeners that I used to hide in the bathroom and read romance novels before school, but I don't do it anymore. But but books are definitely a escape, and I love reading today.
Me too.
So let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, listeners, I want to ask Desrine about her appetite for risk and to tell us more about her international travels for her career. So let's take a short break and we'll be back in a moment. Hi there. I hope you're enjoying this episode. This interview is amazing. I do so love it. I want to just jump in and let you know a couple ways that you can work with me. First of all, you can always go to connectwithsimone.com and it will give you the opportunity to get to my books, website, etc. If you want to sit down and have a conversation about your career directly, you can go to careerbreakthroughcall.com and book a free 30-minute call with me to talk about, what's happening in your career. Do you need help with building your confidence? Do you need help with identifying strategic relationships that you need for career success? Do you need help building a career plan? Whatever it is, I'm sure that I can help. So do go to careerbreakthroughcall.com and set up a time for us to have a conversation. Again, it's a free 30-minute call to have a conversation. That's it for now. Let's get back to the interview. So welcome back. We are talking to motivational speaker, HR consultant, Desrine McFarlane, and she joins us from Jamaica. And we've been having a very good authentic conversation just about her career journey. And in the beginning of the episode, Desrine mentioned to us that she's traveled internationally. Now, I am Jamaican, so I perhaps have a viewpoint of the difficulty of leaving the island and having some of these experiences. But Desrine, you have successfully been able to navigate your career internationally. So tell us about the relationship building, the networking that has to happen, the manager support and strategies and appetite. Those are like 4 questions rolled into one, but tell us about the experience and how you manifested that.
Okay, so I always believe that there are 2 sets of people who are recognized, the very bad and the very good. And I was determined to be very good at what I do. So my leaders could not ignore my competences, my skills. So inviting me, for example, first to be the HR leader for Trinidad. There was a toss up between the person that was in the company for 5 years and the person that was in the company for less than a year, which was me. But the fact is, I came in, and as soon as I came in, I started having an impact. And so I was trusted to take over Trinidad, and then I was entrusted with regional responsibilities. I would now share my knowledge with people in other countries. So I've been to Panama for projects and meetings. I have been to Costa Rica. When I was in another organization at 3M, I was in Mexico for, I think, 2 weeks, where we were having a retreat and planning and so on and making presentations. And I had to make my presentation. So for me, standing out, not because of anything, but your interest in what you do and how you do it, and having another viewpoint than everybody else. So I wanted to see, as I said, research has been a big part of what I do because I'm curious to know what is happening. So when I make my presentation, I'm always introducing something different. And that's what my employers have liked. Now, there was a time in 2018 when there was people were asked to apply to go to different countries far away from home. So they would not assign me to North America or to the Caribbean. So I ended up in China. And in 15 days, I was supposed to bond with 18 people, and we were supposed to work on different projects. And we had to be successful. It was difficult. We did the forming, storming, norming, performing in 15 days, right? It was very painful at first because sometimes people judge you on where you are from. But I was determined that I was there to do something, and it didn't matter what somebody else said that I had nothing to offer because of where I came from. I demonstrated that I did. And in the end, they turned to me and they say, when we're doing the presentation, we want you to do the kickoff. We want you to speak. So I went from being someone that should be silent for where I'm from to the person that was now entrusted with the responsibility to start off, kick off the presentation, give us a good start that they could build on. What I'm saying here is that it doesn't matter where you're from. If you are determined to stand out, if you are determined to learn and continuously learn and take on challenges, you will succeed. You will gain the respect of persons who at first did not consider you a valuable talent or somebody with the competence that they require.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I wrote down win the room, determination, just deciding how you are going to show up in your career. I think that's a theme that's running through this conversation, really being decisive. How am I going to show up and how am I going to be different? How am I going to stand out? Desrine, can you tell our audience if there are any resources that you recommend, books, podcasts, whatever resources that you think will be helpful for leveling up in your career? Can you share that with our audience?
I think it is important to join organizations that are in line with what you do. So in Jamaica, we have the Jamaica Employers Federation, we have her MAJ, and then international, we have the HRM organization. I think it is important to attend those conferences. I've attended some of them. Sometimes they're telling me what I already know, but other times I learn a lot. So it's important. You look at what is being offered. Then, as I said, I'm a Gallup fanatic. I love what comes out of research. So I'm constantly searching. They have done the primary. All I'm doing is making use of the information that is there. I love LinkedIn as well. I have learned so much from the network that I've developed at LinkedIn. I take the time out to follow those organizations as well or persons that I find inspiring. Because even if I'm inspiring, there are people that are greater. There will always be greater and lesser persons than ourselves. So I follow people that inspires me. Again, books. I am still reading. And these days I'm back to biographies. My last book was Becoming by Michelle Obama. And then before that, I read Girls Stop Apologizing. I can't remember who the author was. But what I find is that as a woman, I want to also be inspired by other women that have done great things. And so my resources are far and wide, right? And it's conferences, it's websites, it's research, it is actual people who inspire me. I still think I need mentors in my life. So I hitch myself onto people that I can call and I can learn from. It is absolutely important that we don't think because now I own my own business that I've actualized. Simone, I'm learning from you. I am learning from you. And that's the important thing, that we see continuous learning as something that is important if we are to remain relevant.
So many titles running around in my head for what I could name this episode. If you had to name your career body of work, tell me the title that you would choose and what would it be? And why? Why?
Finding my purpose and pursuing it with passion. Why? Because I discovered my purpose in 1996, that I was someone that was destined to serve. And not serve food, I recognized that it was to serve people. It was not to work in a store. It was to empower people. It was to build the talent. It was to help people to bring out that internal motivation that is there and they don't know that it is there, right? So that's how I see myself, right? As somebody who builds other people. That's what I do. That's what I love doing. And I know that's what I'll be doing for the rest of my life.
I love that, the distinction when you say serve, not to serve in a retail capacity or a food capacity, but to serve and empower and inspire people. Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, I something around determination and being relevant and stand out. And you've dropped so many gems in here. Any parting words as we begin to wrap up the interview?
Well, I want to talk about risk because you have to take some risks to really have tremendous success. If you play it safe, if you just want to be in a little corner and shine there, then that's what's going to happen. But if you want to really have an impact, you must take risks. I remember explaining to someone that I was going to do my master's at FIU, and it was pretty expensive in those days. It was 17,000 US dollars. And he said, do you think that's a good investment? Isn't that a risk that you're taking? And I said, yes, I'm glad you say an investment instead of spending, because that's what I was doing. I was investing in my education. I didn't see it as a risk, but when he brought it up as a risk, I recognized, okay, this doesn't mean that I'm going to get that job that I want, but I got it. Why? Because I was focused. I was focused. The other thing too, even I was, my position, not me, my position was made redundant in March, and there were organizations that were calling me. And I've decided to take the risk to start Legacy HRM. And I'm going to build it. I'm okay with the slow flow right now because I'm building a foundation, right? You must take risks in life. I have a view, I have a vision of what I want, how I want to impact the world now. And I'm going to do it despite the risks of failure. The process may fail. That means a section of the process may fail. Then you fix that part and you keep going.
Mm,
And that's what some people, they don't learn from the failures. I am learning. There were things I thought I needed for my business, such as I thought I needed a 500 Zoom room. I recognize my client has a Zoom room. I don't need that. So I didn't buy it at first, but it was in the plan. Right? There were subscriptions that I bought that I just didn't need, right? So that happens. So you say, okay, now you know exactly what you need. You've got to take some risks and you have to invest in yourself.
mm.
Absolutely important. When Legacy goes online, we look very, very official. Right.
Absolutely. I can attest to that. Absolutely. Yeah. Invest in your brand for sure. Even if you are still in corporate America, you should invest in your brand, invest in your resume, invest in your capabilities. Don't just lean on tuition reimbursement as that is the end all be all. You've got to be the best investor in yourself.
Right. And if people want to learn more about me, my website is www.legacyhrm.com, or you can send me an email, info@legacyhrm.com. I will be excited to talk with you to explore how I can support you. I am very international in my mind. So I'm very happy, Simone, for this opportunity to sit and to speak with you because these are the kinds of collaboration that I think is going to allow not just me to grow, but you to keep growing. And that's what it's all about. There's a space for all of us. And we need to support each other. And I told you before that I see us doing marvelous things. We may not see exactly what it is yet, but I see it coming.
Me too. I may have to release this as a video episode because listeners, you've got to see Desrine's face is this, the wheels are just turning and I'm like, all right, I'm coming down to Jamaica. Yeah. So thank you, Desrine, for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I have truly, truly enjoyed this episode.
Thank you so much, Simone. It was a delight to be here.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.